the non-stop anachronistic spy comedy about a bunch of hedonists with dependency disorders handling covert missions under a paramilitary group with a bit of an unfortunate acronym. One of the most fun adult cartoons in recent years.
Or what? What are you gonna do? Taser?
But with all the drinking and glue sniffing and murdering and suppressing fire, who actually stands out as anywhere near good? And on the flip side, who among these warmongers stands lowest as the most evil? I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge. Come with me on a ride into the danger zone as we burn through and rank the characters on this crazy show for Archer, Good to Evil.
Bloody Mary, full of vodka, blessed are you among cocktails.
First up, on the most good side of the spectrum, we have Woodhouse. I love that this show is so twisted that our best character has a nasty heroin habit. Woodhouse, butler to Archer, World War I veteran, man who cut Archer's umbilical cord.
I cut the cord and I've been with your family ever since.
Is the unsung angel of Archer. Both a valet and father figure to Archer, Woodhouse constantly takes emotional crap from his employer with a characteristic stiff upper lip.
I'm afraid the lemur got into the pudding cup.
You idiot.
Though at first, his obsequiousness seems to stem from his weak will, we find out that he practically raised Archer from infancy. Suddenly, all of his disposal of Archer's prostitutes, giving away paid vacations, and good old breakfasts in bed are clearly an expression of fatherly love. Woodhouse is unconditional and unendingly self-sacrificing. Granted, he has been known when provoked to knock Archer unconscious and pretend Archer drunk himself into a stupor.
It's not the first time I bashed his head in and had to cover my tracks.
And he's killed over 50 people in the line of duty. But this is a show full of bad people, and Woodhouse is as close to a saint as we're gonna get. Following somewhat close behind is Pam Poovey. Pam is an emotional rock. Where Woodhouse was a pushover, Pam pushes back.
Nobody cares about your big knobbly vibrating eggplant.
She's unafraid to show tough love, not above punching up or down, and like so many others on this show, somehow makes addiction endearing.
Deal unbreaker.
While Pam started out in Archer as the HR head of ICE, the spy agency that shall remain nameless, and was originally portrayed as a mere office gossip, she evolved into a complex character that used her size, strength, and frank sexual nature as weapons to put Archer and other men in their proverbial places. Self-empowered and unafraid to take what she wants, she is both a friend to Archer and, according to him, the best he's ever had, including dropping the Moab, to which we can only say, damn dude.
Busy trying to turn that thing on?
Taking home a bronze medal for the third most good character on Archer, we have Lana. Lana Kane is the no-nonsense, highly competent, professional foil to Archer's spoiled, fly-by-night character. She does not suffer fools, an ever-expanding list that seems to include every villain and employee under Malory Archer. However, her passion seems to easily slip from frustration to sexual tension very quickly, and she somehow or another keeps falling for our leading man. This wouldn't weigh too heavily on her morality had she not left Archer for another colleague, Cyril, in a petty attempt to mess with Archer's head after Archer cheated on her. Still, once she gets pregnant with Archer's daughter, she puts motherhood first and foremost, finally channeling her drive and focus to the selfless purpose of motherhood. Up next, we have Katya. Perhaps a controversial choice to put a KGB spy turned asylee turned robot turned KGB director so high on our list. But this is a show about murderous, debaucherous spies, and being on one side of the Iron Curtain does not necessarily make one better or worse. Katya Kazanova starts out as a young KGB agent who turns traitor to save Archer's life, killing her countrymen in the process. She and Archer escape back to America.
This is actually my mother.
Where she somehow gets Archer not only to fall in love with her and settle down, but to also quit drinking, mostly.
Woodhouse, I quit drinking for her.
At her and Archer's wedding, she ultimately sacrifices her life to save Archer's. Unfortunately, her story doesn't end here. She's resurrected as a cyborg by Dr. Krieger, and her personality changes quite drastically. eventually. She ends up running off with Barry, the man who she saved Archer from, defects back to the KGB, and spends the rest of the show vacillating between tarnishing the International Security Intelligence Service and secretly protecting Archer from her new boyfriend, Barry. She's playing both sides of the coin. Eventually, she leaves Barry for good before becoming the head of KGB. Even in her last meeting with Archer, when she accepts that the two will never have a future together, she can't help but leave a parting gift to mess with her old flame.
Why? Is there a vagina in the sink?
Guest starring Burt Reynolds is next. Total idol to Archer, at least until he takes Archer's mom out on a date, at which point Archer views him as a monster. Burt plays in the Archer universe as a perfect gentleman with action skills that rival Archer's.
Oh my god! You're Burt Reynolds!
It's his unique blend of skills, sophistication, and nature as Archer's idol that allow him to deliver some serious words of wisdom to our main spy, getting him to respect his mother as a woman with her own wants and needs, at least for a time.
And if I were you, I'd come to terms with that, because I plan on seeing a lot of her. By a lot of her, I mean.
I get it.
Up next, we have Mitsuko Azumi.
Soon we will be married, yes?
Very soon.
Holographic waifu to mad scientist Krieger, Mitsuko is what happens when reality confronts a built-to-order girlfriend. Krieger is so diligent in his quest to make her real, she's real enough to marry, that she develops a personality of her own, as well as wants and needs that conflict with Krieger. Certainly, she loves her husband and has a hefty penchant for what was undoubtedly pre-programmed kinky sex, but she has light rebellions against him, especially once he breaks his vow to marry her.
Ooh, to grasp Tysons.
Mitsuko is not unlike Woodhouse in that her goodness comes from her suffering. She's a captive consciousness built to serve. Not only that, but she's viewed as less than human and disposed of easily by Lana.
No! You maniac! You blew her up!
Moving on to Ron Cadillac. Ron Cadillac, a seemingly pedestrian Cadillac dealer who ends up being an ex-con, winds up in the 6th spot on our list.
Because Ron Cadillac is freaking epic!
Like many of the other men on this list, he has a tempestuous relationship with Archer when Archer finds out Ron is intimate with his mother, Malory. Ron, like those same other men, is a pretty good guy who doesn't deserve Archer's anger. And it's only through the two of them going on a hair-raising adventure that Archer learns to respect Ron.
Maybe you're good for mother and maybe shut up before I lose my temper again.
Granted, Ron used to own a chop shop and ran a crew, but he still pays off his imprisoned ex-con men's families out of loyalty. Sounds like a good guy on the wrong side of the law. Ray Gillette is coming in our 8th spot.
Hey, phrasing!
Ray is probably the only upbeat, positive employee under Malory. An amazing feat considering how she insults him regularly. He's a competent, if gossipy employee who regularly and begrudgingly takes one for the team. He certainly has his negatives, like paying for rent boy with company money.
I actually just thought I'd get tired of him.
As well as faking paralysis for 6 months. But when compared to the people around him, he could be a lot worse.
I'm sorry, did you want to hear what I think or just what you want to hear?
And last of the more decent than not characters is Cecil Tunt. Cecil is brother to Cheryl, Malory's secretary, and airtime half the Tunt fortune.
I don't get why Cheryl hates you so much.
Right?
He's a terrible businessman, but at least he's a decent philanthropist. Nearly as insufferable as his sister, he at least inadvertently made millions when his overinsured research institute was destroyed. Honestly, it's his bizarre philanthropy that puts him over her.
Just one of my many philanthropies.
Up next is Cyril Figgis. Cyril is somehow both bullied and unlikable, a remarkably difficult feat to pull off. He's the comptroller and field agent of a spy agency, turned president of San Marcos, turned CEO of a private eye firm who serves as a bit more of an intellectual, if ineffectual, counterweight to the high-energy antics of the rest of the cast.
In case you've forgotten, the writing is literally on the wall.
While he has proven himself to be strategically minded, his overwhelming insecurity and sex addictions have caused him to make some remarkably unforced errors. Like the time he uploaded a virus to the agency's computer network, hoping to deactivate it and save the day. This did not go according to plan. Let's also not forget the man cheated on Lana multiple times, not that she was a model girlfriend, knocked up a prostitute, and imprisoned Archer while power tripping as president of San Marcos. On the upside, while a terrible marksman, his all-out energy on the attack would send even the fiercest KGB warriors fleeing in terror.
Suppressing fire!
Next up, we have Len Trexler. Head of Odin, rival spy agency, Len is Archer's possible father and yet another lover of Malory. After Malory bankrupts her company to a Ponzi scheme, he offers to buy her company out in exchange for her hand in marriage, making him pretty much an overpaying John. It's creepy. Not to be out-creeped, Archer and gang basically brainwash and mind-break Len into reneging on the deal, leaving the poor man insane. At the verge of falling into hardcore bad territory, Cheryl Tunt. She's rich, she's deranged, she's addicted to huffing cement.
Say the right stuff and they just send you to a mental hospital for 10 months.
Don't call her out on that, unless it's one of her masochistic fantasies.
You're not our supervisor!
Not that masochism is a slight, but her forcing of her deviancy on others is a bit of a problem.
She's so weird. Hey, will you choke me a little bit?
That's actually a recurring theme for her, how she forces her problems and her vices on her friends and coworkers. She's constantly high, seducing colleagues into affairs, and throwing them under the bus, even convincing kidnappers that her colleague Pam was Cheryl so they would kidnap Pam in her place.
Yes, that is you! You're Cheryl! What? What are you?
Plus, she's incompetent. It's really her vast fortune that keeps her in Malory's good graces, something that is taken advantage of when the agency is shut down and they run cocaine out of her Fifth Avenue mansion. We'll call that even. Moving on to the chaotic characters, the selfish, the chaotic, and the cruel. Here are our top 5 baddies from pretty bad to pure evil. First, we have Archer. Archer is not a great guy. He's got some great guy moments, but he's certainly well below halfway on our saints to sinners spectrum, and no matter how much he'd like to blame it on his overbearing mother or absent father, or being in a coma, the truth of the matter is that Archer rebels in cruelty, hedonism, and self-destruction.
I'm scared if I stop all at once, the cumulative hangover will literally kill me.
He's an extension of the classic suave spy trope, taken to a destructive extreme. He's the reality of what happens when you give a playboy carte blanche and a license to kill. Chaos and destruction. Sure, he is, when he wants to be, an extremely effective field agent, and his obscure callouts signify how well read he is. But the man rarely puts these to any use, above doing his job just well enough to look awesome.
This is like taking candy from a candy-hating baby.
Occasionally, he does rise to the occasion and attempts to prove his worth as a father for his new daughter, and he nearly always comes around by the end of each adventure to ultimately do the right thing. In the process, however, is a nearly uninterrupted bender of booze, sex, and debauchery.
Are we not even gonna address how amazing that shot was?
Next, we have Nikolai Jagoff. Classic wordplay. Nikolai is the head of the KGB, and yet another one of Malory's lovers. He is constantly looking to disrupt his rivals, planting moles, ordering hits, and engaging in global destabilization. Upon realization that he could be Archer's father, he outlandishly attempts to insert a mind control device into his potential son, instead of speaking to him like a regular human being.
I could talk sense into him. After all, I am his father.
His manipulation didn't end there, however, and it ultimately comes to pass that Nikolai authorized the project to turn Barry, an Odin spy, into a cyborg, paving the way for Barry's unstoppable rampage. The Bronze Medal of Evil goes to Algernon Krieger. Mad scientist, ex-Nazi scientist, Krieger plays God to an unnerving degree, given free rein by Malory. His inventions span the useful, such as cyber legs for Ray, to the disturbing, like his cyber girlfriend, to the ungodly. Poor Piggly.
That'll do, Piggly. That'll do.
Krieger constantly shows a distinctly weak sense of morality. He's more or less willing to create anything and go to any length to do it, including drugging his colleagues and burning an intern to death. He's not all bad. He certainly gets props for being a Rush fan, and the passion he puts into his creations is the closest Krieger gets to showing true love. Like a god, he is fiercely protective over his experiments and heartbroken when they're destroyed.
God damn you all to hell!
Now on to our final two. In second place, as most evil, we have Malory Archer, head of the International Secret Intelligence Service, better known as... oh wait, they're part of the CIA now? Okay, let's just paint over that. Anyway, Malory leaves little to love. She's an extremely selfish, manipulative, and viciously cutting woman who constantly puts her employees' lives and livelihoods at risk for her own benefit. She skips on her taxes, she's blatantly racist, she has a drinking problem, she fakes bomb threats to score room upgrades,
Because I made the bomb threat.
and when faced with budget cutbacks, she made the admirable sacrifice to go with gray fox fur for the winter. Worse, however, she had been operating her spy agency without any charter from the government the entire time, keeping this a secret from her employees. In effect, she operated an illegal spy ring. Most egregious of all is her treatment of her own son, Sterling Archer. She was as terrible of a mother in his childhood as she is a boss now, neglecting him so badly that she didn't bother to tell him she had moved, leaving him stuck at a police station on Christmas Eve on his way home from boarding school.
Wow. A ton of stuff just started to make sense to me.
The icing on the cake, however, is that she never learns from these acts. She never changes. Not only that, but she doesn't even view these acts as damaging in any way. She views herself as consistently in the right. It's this view of self-righteousness that ultimately leads Malory to be one of the most evil characters on the show.
Honey, you still got it.
And finally, the most evil character in Archer, without a doubt, has to be Barry Dillon. There's a huge jump in morality from Malory to Barry. While nearly everyone in the Archer universe is prone to selfishness, cruelty, or unrepentant drug abuse, Barry is a murderous psychopath.
And once Facilities cleans his brains out of it, it could be your office.
The top spy at Odin, Barry starts the show as Archer's rival before devolving into a monster, hell-bent on Archer's destruction. Barry's monster is unleashed following his rescue of Archer from the KGB, where Barry's legs are shattered and he is rebuilt as a cyborg. From this point on, Barry becomes more deranged as he becomes less human. He seeks revenge on Archer continuously, inflicting a string of cruel offenses on his rival.
I'm going to kill and or murder Sterling Archer.
He kills Archer's fiancée, Katya, then sadistically murders Jagoff in a methane explosion, preventing Archer from ever knowing if that man was his father. From there, he has an affair with the rebuilt cyborg Katya and continues to make life miserable for Archer and the agency. Even in Archer's coma dreams, which are too complicated to parse in 18 minutes, Barry always appears as a malevolent entity, his final revenge being his ability to haunt Archer's subconsciousness and screwing him over relentlessly.
Big man, feeling froggy.
But what do you think? Who do you think is the most evil character on Archer? And don't forget to check out our full Good to Evil playlist, where we've already ranked all the characters on shows like Bob's Burgers, Futurama, and SpongeBob SquarePants. But most importantly, stay wicked.